For this rendering lesson, we're going to focus on lighting. Lighting is the next thing. After you've built your cameras, you're going to need lighting for you to be able to see anything in your scene. So they're essential to everything, and they're a very interesting part of mine, really cool for if you're an image maker. You can really get some really beautiful effects with lighting. And there are people that work at some of the major studios, and that's all they do is lighting, just to mimic either real world lighting or to make really interesting lighting for visual effects or for renders, like automotive renders, like especially in industrial design and automotive rendering. It's really important to have really nice looking lighting, and it can get very complex. And it also, a lot of it relates to ideas you would use in photography shooting. So if you happen to have studied any photography or know anything about photography or want to get a photography book about lighting, that definitely is helpful. Or if you are also you've studied like a lot of fine art things, like especially if you look at like Renaissance drawings or something like that, just seeing how lighting works and or how artists have depicted lighting. So anyway, let's get started with the actual Maya component of this. So there are different kinds of light in Maya. And for these lessons, in this first rendering lesson series, we're going to focus on just the Maya-based tools. So these are just purely in Maya. These aren't any other outside renderers. So you will find your lighting controls on your rendering toolbar here. So here are your different lights here. And also too, if we change our module to rendering, you can find them up here as well. You can tear off this menu if you like. I tend to like the toolbar is pretty nice nowadays. So you can actually get all these little lights here. So there are a few different lights here. We're going to focus on some specific ones, and I'll tell you which ones that are very useful for at least us right now. One is an ambient light, which gives a kind of overall light. One is a directional light, which would be kind of equivalent to having like the sun or something like that. There's also a point light here, which gives it's kind of like a light bulb, a spotlight, which is really nice. I mean, that's like a theater spotlight. Spotlights are really cool. I really enjoy spotlights. And area lights, that's like a big giant like LED or fluorescent light. And then there's a volume light, which we're not really going to get into too much here. We're gonna focus on most of these lights here, just to get our scenes going here and take a look. So I have created a bunch of lights here already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you these. The one thing I will show is the first thing I'll do is we'll create a light. Let me create one light here. Let me switch off this camera here and then view. Let me create a directional light just to see how they work. So just as we've seen in some of the other lessons, the lights come in, they're objects just like everything in Maya. And what happens is, depending on the scale of your scene, they may come in very small. So you'll just see a little tiny object there. So you see you might have to scale them up. And as usual, I typically like to go in over here and give things a size in our channel editor box. So I gave this a size of 10. I might make this a 20. Cameras seem to work at 10, but 20 might be good. Actually, maybe even a 50. There we go. So again, pick on this, pick on scale X, shift select down to Z, type in your number. That way your numbers are all uniform. Okay, there we go. And then as usual with hotkeys, so W is for move. I'm going to move it. R is for rotate. Oops, oh, sorry. E is for rotate, sorry. All right, there we go. All right, so we're not really seeing anything here because nothing's really happening here, because what I have to do is, let me get out of here. Let me go up into shading here. Now we have to switch into use all lights. There we go. All right, so that's where this becomes important. So now in our tool controls here, what we do is you have to actually switch on use all lights, or else you won't see anything there. So what I'm going to do, put this here. All right. Now I can rotate this so we get a little more effect. Here we go, a little kind of mid-afternoon sun there. You see, that's why it looks cool. You got a little shadows going on there. Okay. And then also too, like I said, we're not gonna focus on this too much right now. We're gonna get into specific lessons on the different controls here. But over here in the attribute editor, here's where you can dial up or dial down the intensity of things. Okay. So everything's generally set at 1, and there's a whole bunch. Oops, that's a 10. Sorry. See, if I put 10. I mean, a 10 ended up in there, and they say intensity of it. Okay, there we go. So let's get back to the channel editor here. All right, I'm going to delete this one. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you, because I've already created a whole bunch of lights here. I just want to show you what their effects are and kind of give you a sense of what they do and how they work. So the first one is an ambient light. Ambient light is just a very general kind of overall light to an object. That just gives you kind of a background kind of lighting to things. Let me give you directional light there. Okay, so here we go. Normally, okay, if it's a daytime scene, you're going to want to set up a directional light. You may want to set up a directional light anyway, just to have, because it's kind of a nice big overall light. But you might want to have, like, lighting is in digital space and computer modeling is a lot of tricks, because it's definitely not actually the real world. So you have to kind of do a lot of tricks to make the real, like, things work in the real world. Because in the real world, you have light bouncing all over the place. Everything's affecting everything else. And in computers, it doesn't quite work like that. So I've added an ambient light here. You see, notice, look up here. I will open up this window here. Notice what's going on here. I have this background area is a little gray, so, but I want just some overall global reflected light, just to give that a bit more there. Okay. So that's the ambient light, but then if I switch off the directional light, then you see it's just this kind of fuzzy zone here. I could raise the intensity of it, but then it just kind of looks like some kind of weird kind of gray day situation. So the next thing is I'm going to give a point light. Okay, here's the point light. There's our point light here. So our point light is just like a light bulb. See what it's doing there? Let me change the intensity of that. I think, yeah, I was playing around with some things just to light the scene with multiple lights. So I'm going to give it a 1. Okay. 1 is your default. So if you notice that, you see it's like a little light that's going down there. So if you wanted like a real light bulb scene or something like that, that's like if you want a light bulb in a scene, not a light bulb scene. If you want a light bulb in a scene or something, you want something very specific, that's what you would do. Okay. All right. So then I'm going to switch that point light off. Right. Oops. And what I'm going to do, oh, let's see, do I have my ambient light on? Yeah, that's what I was wondering why I had that little spot there. This is one of the coolest lights. These are spotlights. Select this. Spotlights you can really do a lot of really cool effects with. So I'm going to pick it, I'm going to move it around. These are very controlled. So these are kind of like the sunlight directional lights, but if you look at what's going on with the shadows, it's really neat. And you can do side lighting with these. We'll do some lessons just purely on like setting up lighting scenes to get a nice little realistic looking thing. And then we'll do some shadow controls as well. So, but there, your spotlight is really, is a very nice little element here and something definitely nice to work with. And the other light you'll work with a bit is area lights. I'm not going to get too much into that right now. we'll do a whole lesson just on purely all the different lights. Let me switch on directional light again, so I have some lighting in the scene. There we go. All right, so this is your basic lighting. So the key thing is after you've set up your camera is then to go in and get some lighting on things. And generally I suggest maybe putting up a directional light just so you have some light going on right away to kind of get an understanding what's happening. Maybe put in a small ambient light just to put a little background light into things. And if you get a little further on, then you can start throwing in directional lights. And the key thing is just learning, just moving them around, controlling them, rotating them, all that kind of stuff. Okay? All right. So that's basic lighting, and we will get more into lighting later on a more complex lesson just on lighting. Okay.